There's a little bit of a journey that took me to where I am now. If we go back a few months, Debbie asked me to write a blog for the platform, and I thought, well, what am I going to write about? And Debbie suggested motivation, and I didn't put pen to paper straight away. I thought I'll have a little bit of a chat with colleagues. And we tried to pin down with colleagues in my college what actually is motivation, because surely the way we define it will partly inform our approach towards it. And we came up with all sorts of ideas. I spoke to quite a few colleagues, and some people came up with the idea that motivation is an instinct, almost like a kind of Darwinian explanation. Some people went down a more psychological route, describing motivation as a drive to fulfill a need, almost implying it's a goal-oriented approach. Some people came up with a cognitive definition, which kind of implies that you can kind of think yourself into a positive attitude. And certainly that's kind of flavour of the day to a degree, because we're implementing like metacognitive approaches in terms of reflecting on our practice with the students as well. Some people went down a more behavioural approach of looking at the effects of praise and rewards, and then we thought, well, we can't really hit on an agreed definition of motivation. So what kind of imagery, what kind of metaphor would perhaps describe motivation best? And so we hit on this idea of motivation being like the oxygen of learning. Because motivation being an abstract noun, as I said, like in the blog, it's very, very difficult to pin down an abstract noun by definition. We all know what motivation is when we see it, but it's very difficult to define it. So we hit on this idea of motivation being the oxygen of learning. And okay, fair enough, learning can take place with minimal or no motivation. Yeah, but it can only be, it's not optimal. Motivation is almost like a kind of catalyst for learning. So that got us thinking, and we went down a kind of rabbit hole. What is it exactly that we do to motivate our students in our college? And I'm really talking about in our English department. And from my point of view, what we do is we've implemented as part of the induction process a discussion that we have with our students of and it's fairly an open-ended discussion, and it's an opportunity for them to reflect on their school experience, maybe to get a few things off the chest, to have a bit of a moan, and also to maybe to reevaluate where they are, and to convey the idea, and as part of the discussion, we're conveying the idea of a fresh start. I mean, that was mentioned earlier, and I also pursue in this discussion, where do you see yourself in, say, a year's time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time? And usually there's the usual throwaway answers like, oh, I want to be rich. Yeah, we all want to be rich. But how are we going to get there? What part does the college play, and what part does GCSE English play as one of those stepping stones towards getting rich? And so we start probing, and as a result of having this discussion, then they do a piece of free writing. And the free writing, essentially what they're doing is they're writing about their experience to date, but then they are imagining how their life's going to unfold, and what role will education play in that. And what I've noticed over the years is there's a direct correlation between the all of the variables being equal, by the way, there's a direct correlation between the amount that they write and their final attainment at the end of the course. Now, this is quite interesting, certainly from a psychological point of view, because what they're actually committing to paper is a very good metric for how invested they feel in the flourishing of their future selves. They're going beyond mere wishful thinking. They're actually starting to emotionally invest in their future selves. And part of the exercise, I'm trying to gauge what elements of them give clues about extrinsic motivation and what elements give clues about intrinsic motivation. And so this exercise, I file this away, read through it. It also gives me some clues about the quality of their writing as well. It gives me a few clues about the things that they're interested in as well. So I'm getting a bit of a group profile going, as well as clues about motivation. So now I've established the degree to which they feel extrinsically motivated, mainly, with maybe a sprinkling of intrinsic motivation. But then throughout the learner journey of that course, we have a series of mini units which culminate in mini progress checks. Now, the initial progress checks are very accessible and very doable. And the point of those progress checks isn't exclusively to gauge progress. It's really to get them on board, because the nature of the task is it's achievable by everyone. And it's not binary, it's not pass or fail, it's on a continuum. So it's degrees of success that we're looking for. And after the first couple of progress checks, for want of a better expression, they've now received at least 2 instances of praise from me, and that's aimed at intrinsic motivation. I'm trying to get them interested in the subject and to see that they can achieve within the subject. Now, that's what I've been doing for the last few years, certainly. But now that I'm in this rabbit hole of motivation, I've started to discover that, mate, that there are theories behind all this. There's a management philosopher, well, management theorist, I should say, called Douglas McGregor. He wrote a book in 1960 about theory X and theory Y approaches. And the way he came up with these letters is the letter X is suggestive of a negative attitude, and the theory Y, because it's open-ended, it's suggestive of a positive attitude. And what he was suggesting in his book is the way that managers can apply these theories to their workers. But very, very recently, and I think in 2019, there's a book that came out by Jervis and Capel. I hope I've got that pronounced correctly. And they've essentially repurposed McGregor's theory of theory X and theory Y. And naturally, it gets us thinking, how can we become more theory Y oriented? In other words, looking out for opportunities for praise, nurturing motivation, acknowledging effort where it takes place. All of and it's not a quick fix. It can't happen overnight. It's incremental, but the metric is in the results, and it's also partly in attendance. And what I've noticed is, I mean, I was doing this kind of without realizing. I didn't realize I was a theory Y person. I didn't realize I had a label, but yeah. So what I would suggest, the takeaway from this is to embrace more theory Y. I mean, sometimes we do become theory X, if we've got a bad day and maybe they're not responding. Yeah, we're all human, but we need to go more down that theory Y route as often as possible, because it does reap rewards, and it is borne out by results and attainment and attendance and things like that. So that's essentially my presentation, kind of in a nutshell. But I didn't want to go on too long, but the students respond well to it, and I always go back to their original statement that resulted from that initial discussion, to see if they want to change any bits of it, and also but it is uncanny that the level of attainment is directly correlates with there's a very high correlation, because that's given us clues about their level of investment. Thank you very much.